Hello friends, welcome. Friends, yesterday I did a video which spoke about Airtel seek equity conversion. Will 50,000 crores of spectrum due turn into government stake? So yesterday I was focused on spectrum due. But when I saw this article today in the morning, which was done by Kiran Rathee, it kind of clarifies the whole situation. So what it is saying is that Bharti is saying that it has a due of 95,000 crores, which includes around 50 to 53,000 crores of spectrum due, and AGR due of around 41,000 crores, right? So Airtel noted that why it is entitled to convert all its dues into equity, given those beyond the government moratorium period, but also are also being converted into equity. It has restricted itself to converting only AGR dues for the time being, official said. So therefore, this video which I did yesterday was focused on spectrum dues, right? And I question that whether the spectrum dues can be converted or not. Now, Bharti is making a different statement in this article of Kiran Rathee. What Bharti is saying? Bharti is saying Airtel notes that it is entitled to convert all its dues in equity based on the government's package of 2012, but it is restricting itself for converting AGR dues. Now in this video, friends, I will clutter the clutter, assuming that we trust this article, because it now makes more sense, and I'll tell you why I don't believe that Bharti is entitled to convert all its dues into equity, including the spectrum dues. AGR dues it can convert, unless the government has made some changes in the past telecom package of 2021. So friends, in this video, we are going to go step by step. We will see whether the spectrum dues of Bharti is eligible for conversion. If Bharti is saying it is eligible for conversion, whether the 2021 PIB release talks about those spectrum dues to get converted. That is the question that we are going to say. Now, if Bharti is saying it is entitled to convert, that will translate to the fact that there has been a revision of the 2021 PIB package where all dues, including those which were not part of the moratorium, is also going to get converted, which I don't think so, unless the government comes out with an order, which I mentioned yesterday in my video. But AGR due was part of the moratorium. Now, friends, let's go straight to the press release, the PIB release of dated 15 September 2021. I pointed to this PIB release yesterday also, but this is very important to read because people are misreading this. If you go with this PIB release, then spectrum dues are not convertible unless and until government changes this PIB release and comes out with a different PIB release. Why? Read this. Addressing the liquidity requirement of telecom service provider, Cabinet approved the following for the telecom sector for TSP, right? Now, let's read the fourth serial number, and then we will refer back to 1, 2, 3, depending upon what we need. It says, at the option of the government to convert the due amount pertaining to the said deferred payment. Note this, said deferred payment, by way of equity at the end of the moratorium deferred payment period, guidelines for which will be finalized by the Ministry of Finance. Now, what it is saying is, at the option of the government, means government has the option to convert the due amount pertaining to the said deferred payment, not the interest. Said deferred payment. What is said deferred payment? If you look at this, point number 1 and point number 2 and point number 3, deferred payment is those which were part of the moratorium period. Moratorium deferred up to 4 years in annual installment of dues arising out of the AGR judgment, with however protecting the net present value. Moratorium deferred on dues on spectrum purchased in the past auction, excluding the 2021 auction, up to 4 years with NPV protected at interest rates stipulated with respective auction. Note the word past auction. It does not say future auction. So when it does not say future auction, how can you assume that after the 2021, when this PIB release came, when it excluded the 2021 from the auction from the moratorium period, how come 2021, 2022 and 2024 will become part of this clause 4, which says the option of the government to convert the dues amount pertaining to the said deferred payment by way of equity at the end of the moratorium deferred period, guidelines for which will be finalized, and it says past auctions. Look at this, moratorium deferred payment on account of dues on spectrum payment purchase in past. And it says here, if you read this, on dues of spectrum payment, and it says that convert the dues pertaining to the said deferred payment. Said deferred payment, it does not talk about future spectrum auctions. So friends, it is very clear, unless this order is revised or DOT is over, you can say it is interpreting this in an expansive manner. Spectrum dues, in my point of view, is not convertible for those years which were not part of the moratorium. It looks quite strange to me, because how can a government come out with a PIB release and not mention the word future, and still you can interpret that as spectrum dues which will be convertible, right, to equity. It is not possible like that unless they mention here all future spectrum auction also. That's what my understanding is. But AGR judgment, dues on account of AGR judgment, probably is under the possibility of conversion. Now, if you look at this article which I wrote, in this article I have calculated how much dues Bharti has and how much dues Bharti has accumulated. Because if you look at this, let me just zoom out a bit, you can see that this was an article for Vodafone Idea. AGR crisis explained what went wrong, what remains, and what can be done. In this article, friends, I have Bharti Airtel's AGR dues calculation, which include principal, interest payment, interest on penalty, and all these are calculated here, shown based on their annual statement, a quarterly statement, where I pulled out. Then I have gone down below and how much dues are left, right, for Bharti Airtel, which to me looks to me around 38,000, because 43,980, which is this number, 43,980 minus 18,004, which Bharti has prepaid to the power of 4 years, which is moratorium, which comes out to be 1.47, and if you multiply this comes out to be 38,185, which is annual installment of 8,260 crores for 6 years. This is what Bharti is asking for conversion. That's all I think. This article, if you go with this article, this article, where is this article? This is the line. Airtel noted that while it is entitled to convert all its due into equity, which I doubt unless there is a government order, which is different from this press release, the reason which I explained. Because this can't read a press release for an order for an event which will happen in future unless this press release clearly points out in this addressing liquidity requirement, where there is a 0.5 mention that all future spectrum auction dues which are principal in nature are liable for conversion. This press release does not give me that indication. Maybe some lawyers will be able to tell better, but I don't think so, right? So net, I will not like to go further in this video. Let's go straight to the article, that article which I was talking about. Airtel noted that while it is entitled to convert all its due into equity, given those beyond the government moratorium period are also being converted into equity, it has restricted itself to convert it to AGR. Why it cannot convert it all its spectrum duty into? Because it already prepaid. Because of this press release, you see that this press release talks about 7.22% of interest and 52,000 crores of spectrum due, which is only for the year 2021 and 2022, because otherwise this can't be weighted average of 7.22%, which I already mentioned. The spectrum dues for Bharti is for 2021 and 2022. 24 was a higher interest, it has already paid. So again, let's go back to this article, which means while it is entitled, so there is nothing to be converted except 2021 and 22. So those are the spectrum dues, which I told you is not part of the PIB release because of this interpretation, because it is only talking about past auctions. You read it again and let me know, because I do not think that you can interpret in such an expansive manner that all future spectrum auctions, right, is also could be considered as conversion in equity. Because then otherwise, you could have included a 2021 auction also as part of the moratorium. Why you did not include? Because it's clearly stated here, 2021 auction was to be paid, in installment. It is not part of the deferred payment moratorium, right? It was not part of the moratorium. So, given this situation, summary of this whole discussion is very simple. Airtel wrote a letter, go through this article. Airtel wrote a letter on 1st of April and is seeking to convert its AGR dues, which according to this calculation is 41,000. My calculation says 31,000. I don't know what the actual number is. And it says that it wants that to be converted into equity. That's all, friends. Nothing else looks like in this article, because if we go with this article which Kiran has done, then I think the interpretation is very clear. AGR dues can be converted because the press release talks about the AGR dues to be converted. You look at this. This is point number one, moratorium, deferred payment up to 4 years. And why Bharti should be interested in converting AGR dues? Let me ask you this question. It's very simple, because the spectrum dues actually has been extended, those payment period, 10 years, 20 years, whatever the number is, that got extended. Now, Bharti does not matter because the 2021 and 2022 spectrum auction was not part of the moratorium. It does not matter for Bharti. But AGR has got a sunset date of 31st March 2031 because of the Supreme Court judgment. It can't be extended, and it has an interest payment of 8%. Now, if you get debt out of the books, it is always going to be better for Bharti than seeking an equity. Suppose, let's say, somebody may say, why Bharti is going to the government for conversion of the AGR dues into equity, not issuing a public tender or some kind of IPO for equity participation? Because by doing an IPO, you can liquidate, you can basically have additional liquidity, but your debt remains on books. But if you make the debt, if you can get debt out of the books, then if you want to take future debt, then your bargaining power becomes better. You are more cash rich. I think that's all is happening. That is point number one. Second thing would be that Bharti wants to put itself in the queue for any AGR decision the government will take in future. Reliance is not interested in AGR because Reliance dues are absolutely, they have already paid. Bharti's dues are roughly 40,000 crores. Vodafone's dues are 76,000 crores. So only these two companies are impacted by AGR, and therefore Bharti does not want to miss the bus. If anything is done on Vodafone Idea, which I think can be done, has to be done, because Vodafone Idea will not be able to pay that 18,000 crores of payment which is going to be due on 31st March 2026. And largely it will be for AGR, which will be 16,500 crores. They will not be able to pay because their overall yearly revenue is 40,000 crores. So the government of India has to do something on AGR. So if government has to do something on AGR, Bharti will like that benefit to be also been given to it, because it has got a sizable due of 40,000 plus crores on AGR. That's all is going on, friends. Nothing else. I think so. I thought of doing a clarification video, because yesterday the things were not clear. This article of Kiran Rathee, this article actually made things very clear. If you trust this article, because this is what this para is. Airtel noted that while it is entitled to convert all its dues into equity, given those beyond the government moratorium period are also being converted into equity, it has restricted itself to converting AGR dues for the time being, official said. That's all, friends. Thanks for your time listening till the end, and hope that you like this video, and I'll come back with a new video on a new topic next time. Thank you very much.